Actually, I want to go into the specifics of the court case now.
Yeah.
The tickle and giggle thing.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Like you
Oh
couldn't make
my
it up.
God!
You
So I mean,
couldn't make it up.
just for the
Yeah.
listeners. So you were reported by a trans person.
Well, a man with a trans identity um, made a human rights complaint against both Giggle and me personally, and we received that in January.
Okay,
Um,
just say what giggle is. Sorry.
so Giggle is the app that I run, and it's for females only. And so obviously he could not use it. Now he had actually, so there's, as I said at the beginning, there's the selfie that you have to take to get on. Now
Yep.
we have the AI that works behind it. We've got two forms of security. There's AI, and then there's human beings who look at the images. Now the AI is set to 94% accuracy. We did all of the testing. That is the percentage that we found that works the best, because our thoughts were that, because obviously technology can make mistakes. It just does. It does every single day. There's no way around it. That's why we have human beings who look at the images. But 94% meant we wanted that. We thought that it would be better if a man occasionally gets on that we could remove than women being denied. Basically, was where we were coming at it. I've got a little baby that's just squirming. Oh,
it's okay. I just had a boy walk in and slam the door. Did you hear
it? No, I didn't. And so anyway, so this particular individual, Tickle, he did get on the app, and I removed him. So we then got he actually then contacted me. He texted me. I don't know how he got my phone number, but he texted me and then tried calling my phone. And so I didn't know who this person was, other than, and I'd never heard of the name, nothing. But I got this text. It was Roxy Tickle. I want to get on the app. I want to talk to you about it. And so because of I had this sort of tiny bit of information, I went and looked into on the app to find out what was going on, and I saw that this was someone who I had removed. And I saw the image of a man and was like, yeah, I've removed you. And I actually called my dad and asked him what to do, because I was really freaked out. It's because no one else in the history of Giggle has ever contacted my phone, me via my phone number, personal phone, personal and professional phone number, but contacted me that way about getting on the app. And so I was really creeped out about it. And because your mind immediately goes to what's next. Like, do you turn up at my house about this? And my dad just said, block the phone number and don't tell your mother, because she'll get scared. And so I did just that. And then we got
Don't
a
tell your
human
mum.
rights complaint. Yeah. And then we got a human rights complaint from this person. And my first thought was, oh my God, now I've got to tell my mom. So it's like, oh shit. So basically he made a human rights complaint on the basis of gender identity discrimination, saying that because he identifies as a woman, he should be allowed on the app. And he wanted to have, it's called conciliation, the Human Rights Commission, tribunal, whatever it is. And that to resolve the issue, I would have to agree to let him and all men who identify as women on the app, I would have to apologize. I would have to start a new form of moderation on the app, so that, women who were talking about anything that offended trans identified men would be removed. And I would also have to submit to education on gender identity. And yeah,
Oh,
and
off to the
I
off to the
couldn't believe,
camps. Off to the
yeah,
camps for you.
seriously, I was just in utter shock. And also, when I got this complaint, I was 15 weeks pregnant, and I was actually in isolation with COVID. And so I was like, I couldn't be around human beings, and I just received this human rights complaint. I was like, you just couldn't make this up. And so immediately, we got a lawyer straight away to help us deal with it all. And I was like, I am not going to agree with any of those things ever. Absolutely no way. And so I refused to do conciliation. And I refused it, knowing that there was a chance then that he could take us to federal court. Because basically, if the Australian Human Rights Commission, either they dismiss it, going like, you have no claim, like he has no claim, or they just advise of what the next steps are that they could take. That's basically their role. It's kind of a weird thing to even have. Like, they don't have legal authority essentially
I
or
have
anything.
no respect for their legal process. I know a little bit about
I
it.
have no respect for the Australian Human Rights Commission whatsoever. So they supported him. They advised him that he could go to federal court. And he did. He had, so the rules are he had 60 days from this certain day to file a case, and he did it on the afternoon of the 60th day. To, they say about this sort of stuff, the process is the punishment, and 100%, because you're just thinking constantly, well, not constantly, but it's just there in the back of your mind, is this going to happen? And then there you go. So we had a federal court case filed against us, and again me personally, which then in this court case was saying that one of the things he wanted financial compensation for whatever reason, I wouldn't like to assume, and also again saying that he wanted me in this court case to go to education. But then also one of the allegations against me was that I had stated that trans women, including the applicant, are male. And I was saying to our barrister, I was like, I'm this is an allegation against me for telling the truth, that I will then have to go and defend in a court of law where I have to take an oath to tell the truth. What am I supposed to do here? I was like, this is absolutely absurd. So our barrister is absolutely amazing, and she had a whole plan of what was going to happen. And then he withdrew. We just got an email. I got an email one day, just randomly. We had started the whole process of putting together our case. We had, I think, because we had 27 days to respond. So I think this was about like the 21st day or something, that the case had been withdrawn. And of course it had, because he would lose. But
well, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
okay.
Like
so,
if you look at some of the precedents in
okay. I'll preface it. I don't know how much I can say, but okay. So to do a straight gender identity discrimination case, how the law is currently the Sex Discrimination Act. So female only spaces are legal under the Sex Discrimination Act. But in 2013, a gender identity clause was added, and it completely muddles the Sex Discrimination Act, and it needs to be challenged in court. It 100% needs to be challenged. Now, there are a lot of lawyers that think it won't stand up and once challenged, and I tend to agree with them. So the only way to respond to a case like this is to actually challenge it constitutionally, not just respond to a straight discrimination claim, which basically was our plan, and hence the lawsuit was dropped. It was withdrawn. Because my theory is that these people, and I say people, I'm saying activists, don't actually want the law challenged. They would prefer to have it there to intimidate people.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so that's sort of where it is now. We're just, Australia is in this sort of limbo, sort of held hostage by this, where there's a lot of people and a lot of businesses that do cave into it out of utter fear. And I understand it. So, for example, if you're a female-only gym, which, women-only gyms have existed for ages, and there's a real reason behind it.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, actually, just one of the reasons is actually like postpartum sort of workouts and things like that, and just sort of and being uncomfortable with bodies and blah blah blah. There's real reasons behind women only needing to exist. And I totally understand if you are an independent business, and you're just in one specific geographical area, and you have a male who thinks he's a woman, basically intimidating you and scaring you into having him in there and threatening legal action against you, and you just go, okay, we'll just let him in, because you don't want, you're scared, and two, the financial pressure of that, it's huge. We're sort of fortunate in the sense that that intimidation can't work with what I do, because the whole reason for the app is that there's no men on it. Like, there's just, you add them in, and it's like, cool, I think
Yeah.
Twitter.
It's kind of self-defeating there. It's like,
it is like, I mean, you let men on into Giggle, and literally, it's just it's just Twitter then, and what's the point of it? So it's like you completely destroy the point of my business. But beyond that, we're not bound to one geographical area. It's a global company, so I don't sort of have that fear of like, of of sort of just being like that, sort of like that if why sort of bring the geographical thing into it is it's just like you don't have the choice to move somewhere else or go somewhere else to secure your business. We do, because it's online, blah blah blah. So it just sort of it's just sort of just different a little bit for us, and so that's why we were completely prepared to fight it. And
Good.
so there's like the hopefully just we can actually challenge this law without one individual person like myself or one company having to be the one responsible for doing it. Hopefully we can just be able to talk sense into lawmakers and say, look, here's what's happening. But that's it. Like in Queensland right now, I mean, they are trying to bring in self-ID laws and it's a nightmare. So yeah, I have no idea where this is going to go.
And there's no upper house in Queensland. So, and there's
I mean,
no real opposition. There's no.
Do I think that ultimately in everything we will win? Yes, but is it going to take a year or a generation? It's just so it's just that's the scary part of it. But I think common sense and truth will prevail.
Yeah, look, if it goes to human rights courts, no, because what they do is they link hazy principle with outcome. It's not about process. The whole thing about law is it's supposed to be about process. It's due process.
Yeah.
And if you can link a hazy, convenient principle with with an outcome, well then, but
yeah, I mean, it is the thing that more and more, like if there are any like businesses, like sort of gyms or whatever that are female specific, and schools, for example. See, schools are the ones that, for the most part, actually have stood up against this, but it doesn't challenge the law in any way because they can get out of it on a religious exemption. Because most, like say, male only or female only schools have religious affiliations, so that's how they get around it.
And there's massive attacks on that now. So there's
no, without
attacking that. We're attacking those bigoted weirdos who believe in space zombie. Like that's the way they're framing it. And that's likely to win. That's people loathe Christianity.
Well, I'm very much like, so I like my boyfriend is religious, whereas I'm not. And so we talk about this stuff all the time, and I'm very much like, kind of with everything, I'm just like, live and let live. I'm like, be religious. I don't care. I only care if someone's trying to make me religious. How a religious person would only care if I was trying to make them non-religious. You know what I mean? It goes both ways. Yeah. So it's just like everyone just like and it's even with like the trans thing. It's like, believe whatever the hell you want. If you want to believe that men are women, or if you yourself are a man and it makes you live your best life and you are your best version of yourself, that every day when you wake up, you say, I'm a woman, and you do what you live how you interpret that is, and that works well for you, cool. I mean, that doesn't affect me. It only affects me if you are trying to force me to believe it, or if you want to come into female spaces or female sport, because then it does affect me, and I'm going to say no. But like, so it's just like, but if on one level it works for you, fine. Like, I don't really care. You know what I mean? I care in like the greater sense of reality, but someone telling themselves a lie to get out of bed in the morning, we all do it. So like, it just depends on what's the lie you're telling yourself.
Yeah. But see, one of the things is, and I actually saw this articulated quite well with Tyson, the American physicist Dyson or Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. Oh my God, I love him. Look, he was having a discussion with Ben Shapiro on this, and he goes, look, it's a fact that people feel this way. That's a fact. So, and he's got a point. So, when we say, hey, the federal court or, anything else should be dealing with facts, we should be talking about an independent, observable reality. Well, it's a fact that someone feels that way. So can you see the circular kind of like,
completely like
real and therefore factual. So that person's feeling and perception of themselves is at some level factual. Because
but this is the whole thing. You cannot legislate subjectivity, can you? You shouldn't be able to. They are trying very hard to, and you shouldn't be. Like, it's a fact that someone feels that way, yeah, but the feeling itself is not a fact. Like, so it's just like, it's nonsense. Like, it's just, I honestly cannot believe that I have to spend any time saying to people that women don't have a penis. It blows my mind. Like, that should be the stupidest thing that's ever come out of my mouth.
Yeah, 2 + 2 is 5.
Yeah, like, it's such a weird sort of cultural era that we're in, and even made even weirder by the fact that a lot of people don't even know what's happening.
Yeah.
And like, so some people,
it is being hushed up. Like, you know, when I say this,
100%.
Oh, okay, tinfoil hat, where I'm going, like,
yeah,
I've got a friend who's an ex-journalist, and I discuss this with him. He goes, no. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, no. And it's like, you feel like you're wearing a tinfoil hat constantly. And then you have people who say, okay, yeah, sure, it's happening, but it's only happening on the internet. And I'm going, no, this is real life stuff for me.
Yeah.
Like, this, I've had a human rights complaint against me, and it was upheld because I do something only for women, 50% of the population.
Yeah.
And a man who thinks he's a woman was given more support in that process than I was.
Yeah, it's honestly, it is, and everyone, it's not overused. It's the Australian Human Rights Commission, wholly Orwellian, ironic.
Yeah. Like,
no, you're not. You are not there to do that. In fact, you achieve the direct opposite. You're the Ministry for Truth.
Well, the journalist actually contacted me during the process of it, just to say, like, was I aware of the fact that the Australian Human Rights Commission was actually one of the places that lobbied to get gender identity put into the Sex Discrimination Act. So at what point is there not a conflict of interest?
It's totally a conflict of, and you see this in the public service. I can't talk too much about this, but like, you see this in the public service all the time. So elected bureaucrats lobbying the government that's paying them when they're supposed to be politically impartial to give them more power. It's like, no, you can't do that. You know, and they tell their staff, you have to vote in this way, you have to do these things, you have to advocate for these things. That is totally a conflict of interest. And it actually, I'm sorry I get so passionate about this, because that's an attack on democracy, Ms. Grover.
Oh, completely. That's like this whole thing. Like, I mean, that's why I say, like, I obviously come at it from a women's rights, female spaces perspective, but you don't have to give a shit about women's rights to be involved in this, because it is an attack on reality and democracy and freedom of thought and freedom itself, because you're being told you have to believe these things.
Yeah.
So it's just, I do just say, have a little bit of respect, please, for the women who've been fighting this for years. I mean, I've only been doing it for 3 years. There have been women who were aware of this was happening for much longer, significantly longer. It's actually the demographic that discovered what was going on first were lesbians, because it was men IDing as lesbians and saying that they had, like, and invading their spaces. And so they were raising the alarm, and everyone was saying, no, this is not happening. So it's just like,
or they kind of didn't care. I would have done that. I would have gone,
I think I would have as well. I would have gone, there's absolutely no, because
and who cares? Like, who cares? How is this going to affect?
I wouldn't have gone, who cares? But I would have said, there's no possible way that that's happening, or like, because I wouldn't have believed it, because it's so preposterous.
Yeah.
But that's why I understand why people still don't believe it, because it sounds so absurd. But it's like, that's why I have to say to people, like, the Human Rights Commission, I had a human rights complaint against me, and they sided with the man who thinks he's a woman. I've experienced it. And if we're going to be in this era of lived experience, well, surely mine counts for something here.
No.
And so,
not all, some lived experiences,
some are more equal than others.
But some lived experiences more equal than others.
Yes,
exactly. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everything that's happening right now points back to Orwell, doesn't it? Everything.
Yeah. And for anyone out there who's listening, like, who's sitting there going, well, what's the matter with that? Orwell was not supposed to be a plan and a textbook.
No.
Okay, people?
It wasn't something to try.
Like, don't do this. Not like, this is how it's done. Okay.
Exactly.
If you read Orwell and went, that's how to do it. No, you kind of missed it. No.
My dad got me to read Animal Farm, I think for the first time when I was about 12.
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Like and now like you just sort of pick them up and sort of just dive into them every now and then to be like, is this really happening? And
yeah, and Kafka as well too, like where he turns
yes,
because
yeah. No, without a doubt, it's just this. It's a very, very strange time, but more hopefully just and there's more conversations like this, and more people just do realize that hang on, this is really serious and something that affects us. And the more people that speak up against it, the quicker it will be over, and we'll go back to normal or whatever when I say back to normal, it means just like there are just objective fundamental truths in the universe and that just are, which is like men and women are women and things like that. And when we can just get back to acknowledging them without people losing their jobs or whatever, we will be better, and then we can move forward and progress as a society in a healthier way. But this is so unhealthy at the moment. Like even like just in terms of the impact of it, like the being forced to put your pronouns in your work email signature and things like that. Like just getting back to before what we were saying, like how these sort of institutions are indoctrinated by it, and it is, and that's part of it. You have it's sort of this badge that you have to wear to say, oh yeah, I've either agree with this or I've submitted to it. So I always say to people, like if your employer asks you to put your preferred pronouns in your email signature, put the most politically incorrect, disgusting neo pronouns you can find, and there's some absolutely absurd ones. And watch how quickly that they tell you that it's okay for you to not.